Welcome to the Artist Interview Series. In this podcast, we feature interviews with the brightest musicians and music educators from around the world. Our goal is to provide meaningful conversations and insights into their creative process, to discover the inspiration behind the music, and to learn from the experiences of these talented musicians. Our host today is William Crawford, a Lilly Theater Company drum instructor and associate producer. In this episode, we spend some time talking with highly esteemed composer, flutist, and educator, Alexandria DeWalt. So, let's jump right in and get to know this week's inspirational artist.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another artist interview, Lilly Theater Company artist interview. We have a very special guest. She's a flutist, she's a vocalist, she's a composer, Berklee faculty, Berklee College of Music. Please give a warm welcome to Alexandria DeWalt.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. All right, so where'd you grow up at? How did you start your life at?
So I'm originally from Houston, Texas. And everyone, whenever I say that and I'm in a different city, they're like, oh, did you go to that art school? Yes, I went to that art school. Was it like High School Musical? Absolutely not. I wish. But I grew up in Houston, Texas. I have two older brothers, Adam and Anderson, and they're also both musicians. Adam is a trumpet player and Anderson is a bassist. I don't know how we all got into music. I think my grandmother is a part of that. She was a pianist and singer, but she was one of those country pianists. So she was just playing in the choir, learned by ear, those types of things. So I started playing music when I was around 5 years old. I started playing flute, and I was mostly playing classical flute. I've been playing for the past 20 years of my life. So that's really fun. And I got into jazz once my brothers were started playing jazz. I was like, ooh, what's this stuff they're playing? And from then on, I've been in both worlds, the jazz world and the classical world with my flute. And then I started singing. I suppose everyone sings in their like two, in elementary school choir and stuff. So I was one of those like kids that did that, but I never really was like, oh yeah, I'm a singer. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a flute player. And it wasn't until I was around 16 or so where I decided, oh yeah, I want to sing too. And so I decided to go to school for singing in the University of Miami and then eventually Berklee. So I guess that's how I got here.
There you go. Yeah, both really great schools. My drum teacher went to University of Miami, and great school. I told us a little bit about your family musician. So who's your who's your biggest influence in the family that got you to play music and stuff?
That's a hard question. I think my grandmother is responsible for me and my brothers being musicians, and she's influenced us since we were born. But like one of the first lessons I remember her teaching me was I had like a solo in church, and I was like, oh yeah, I just have to know the first verse. And she's like, no, you have to know all the verses. What if, someone drops out? And of course she was right. Someone dropped out and like got to sing other verses. I was like, oh, grandma, why do you have to be right? So she's like, I think the biggest influence over all three of us, but I think personally is my middle brother, Adam. He really showed me that I could be successful at being an artist. He's a producer, a trumpet player, composer. He's toured all over the world with a bunch of different artists. And so, I don't know, he really showed me that being an artist is possible, and living and making a living being an artist is possible. So he's influenced me in that way. Maybe not musically, but in a way of like, oh, like this is possible. Like I can be an artist and I can be happy. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to have a family member that does all that stuff. So that's great. Great influence and great guy too. Great guy. So I learned you were part of the Grammys orchestra. Would you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, they don't have this program in them anymore, but it's called like the Grammy Jazz Session. And so they have a Grammy big band, like jazz band, which is high schoolers from all over the nation. And then they have a Grammy Jazz Choir, which is also high schoolers from all over the nation. So we audition and they select us. First year I didn't make it, but that's okay. I had only been singing for like 6 months. Second year I made it. And I had the opportunity to sing with, I believe, 7 other people. And we did like a mini LA tour around. So we did something at like Spaghettini's. There was this jazz club in LA at the time called Blue Whale. We did it at the Novo Center somewhere in downtown LA. It was like a large, I don't know, concert venue. And we got to sing at the Grammys after party and the Grammys like nominee reception, and we got to go to the Grammys, which was amazing. I never thought that I would be able to experience that at such a young age and to be surrounded by so many amazing musicians. That program introduced me to a lot of people that are now my peers that are also doing the things where they're big and successful. And I was like, wow, this was a great program. But yeah, I had a lot of fun at the Grammys. We learned some really hard music. It was my first time singing in a jazz vocal choir. And I learned a lot about singing in a group and leading a group and what it means to like be on a little mini tour. What it means to go to the Grammys and seeing those type of artists in your face. I will never forget. I saw like like they have a televised Grammys section and a non-televised. And so we went to both. And at the untelevised one, Chance the Rapper was there. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's Chance the Rapper. He's like, 3 feet away. Same with Kirk Franklin. I was in a huge Kirk Franklin phase at that time. And so when I saw this like little man, and he's from Texas too, and I was like, oh yeah. So when I saw this like little man from Texas like getting a Grammy, I was like, oh my gosh, this is nuts that I get to, be there and see this happening in front of me, and to also make music with some of the best who have ever done it in my age group.
Wow. Yeah, you get to see like the world's best is right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what brought you to Berkeley?
So when I was in high school again, the Global Jazz Program had I guess, like summer camp where we would go to Newport and we would get to study with Danilo Perez, and I got to study with Sarah Serpa, and there were just like a plethora. Terry Lynn Carrington was there as well. And so we were in Newport for a week, and we actually got to play at the Newport Jazz Festival. But we were there and I was like, oh yeah, what's this Global Jazz Program? Like, I don't know what this is. I didn't know who Danilo was at the time. Danilo Perez, which is, he was Wayne Shorter's pianist for a really, really long time. And I didn't even know it was him. Like luckily I had seen Wayne Shorter like maybe a year before that. So I'd seen him play, but I didn't know who he was. I was young, naive. So later on, when I was looking into grad programs, to be honest, I didn't want to pay for grad school. So I looked into programs that were like, so if you got into the Global Jazz Program, you got a full tuition scholarship. So everything was paid for. So that's what interested me at first. And then I saw the faculty, and it's like some of the best in the world that you get taught by. And then I just remembered that experience in high school of like really enjoying like the presence of Danilo and Terry Lynn. And so I was like, okay, I want to be a part of this. So I applied and luckily I got in. I was very happy. I was like stressed out because, for graduate school, sometimes it's really hard to get money because everybody wants to give money to undergraduates because they're there for 4 years rather than like someone's there for 1 to 2 years. So it was really hard to get some money. But once Berkeley was like, but yeah, you're accepted. I was like, for you, like I get to go to school and I don't have to, worry too much about the money. So that's how I ended up at Berkeley, like in the grad school situation. But then being hired, I think just word got around. Like I was playing a lot in Boston. I was also teaching some. I was teaching I was a tutor. So people had heard that I was like teaching around there too. And I guess somebody on faculty was like, this girl should be hired. And I think they were also just like looking for people who could do more things. Like I sing, I play flute, I can play piano, like I know how guitar works. And I would not call myself a guitarist at all, but I know how it works. I know where the notes are and everything. So I think they needed people like that in the ensemble department that kind of just like could fill in the gaps. And weirdly enough, the person Gregory Groover, who reached out to me, had also worked with my brother. So it was really cool that it was like such a small world and it came together. And I applied and I interviewed and they're like, yes. And I was like, yes, yay. So I'm very honored to be working there.
That's awesome. Just being a professor at Berkeley. Woo!
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
It's a yes, and yes. Awesome. So going so when you were in junior high school, did they have any music programs there?
Yeah, so this is crazy, but in Houston we have performing arts magnet schools. So they're schools specialized in the performing arts. And I went to a performing arts magnet school, elementary through high school. So my entire life I was in the arts, which I'm really lucky that I was growing up during a time where it is really valued. So, like in elementary school, everyone has this, like, I think we called it ancillary or something like that, where you have like periods of time outside of like the normal classroom. So we had art and we had choir, we had, orchestra, band, piano, guitar. And so when we were young, we could choose what we wanted to do. And so like my first like couple years, I was like, oh yeah, art and pre-band. So like I was on a recorder. And then I was like, I'm not very good at this visual art thing. So I did pre-band and choir. And eventually that turned into choir and band in elementary school. And then when that's Parker Elementary. And then when I got to, at the time it was called Johnston, now it's called Meyerland Middle School of the Arts. And there you had to have 2 art areas. And because I was such a band nerd, I did double band. So I was in like the classical symphonic band. And then I was also in the jazz band where I played saxophone. I don't know, I had no business playing saxophone. I had to audition on saxophone. I think I played I couldn't even get a note out. I was so nervous. But they still were like, okay, like maybe she can handle it. And eventually I moved to the high school, which is High School for Performing and Visual Arts, where you're only allowed one like principal or one major. So I was in the instrumental department, and I played flute in like the classical settings, and then I played alto saxophone and tenor saxophone in the jazz settings. So I surprised myself with the saxophone. Like I actually got like pretty okay. And I was playing in the all school musicals and saxophone, like even went to like Region Jazz Band, whatever that means. And flute has always been there and always doing its thing. But yeah, I grew up all the way through like doing performing arts magnet. And so I say I didn't really have a choice but to become an artist. Like my mom, I remember one day, like my dream was to be like an anesthesiologist. I thought that was so cool. And I'll never forget, my mom sat me one day. We were just on the way to school. And she's like, "Are you sure you want to be a doctor?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" And she's like, "You consistently score lower in your STEM, subjects." And I said, "Wow, Mom." And she goes, "I'm just telling the truth." And she said, "Maybe you should consider something else, like like being a lawyer or like continue with the music thing." And so I guess because of that conversation, really, I decided to continue with the music thing, and I'm here, which is crazy.
Well, seems like you made the right choice. Doing
Yes.
a lot of things. Yeah. So what's it like playing in clubs in the Big Apple, New York City?
It's really fun. It's what drew me to come to New York was that the best of the best live here, and to be able to experience that on a daily basis, even if I'm like in the subway and I see someone that's like, "Oh my gosh, like that's Jason Moran, like that's crazy," and it consistently reminds you that you're here for a reason, and that you're here to grow as an artist and as a human. And so it motivates me to keep practicing. And those club dates, like whenever I'm like on it and I'm like, dang, I could have done better. Like, because I'm just surrounded by people who are so good at what they're doing. So whenever I met with playing with a pianist who's played with everyone under the sun, I'm like, okay, like Alexandria, bring your A game. Like it's now, and try to serve the music as best as possible, but also try to make yourself look a little good, like a little better. So yeah, I think coming here has been a lot. It's like a very overwhelming city, but I think it is ultimately molding me into the artist and human that I would like to be.
That's good. Yeah. New York City is definitely a place for music and stuff. I think I went there, went to the park. What was the park called? The big park?
Central Park.
Central Park. I went there and there was just this drummer I heard in the park. He was just drumming. He had like the best chops I've ever heard. It was just a drummer just busking in New York. It just
Yeah.
blew me away. I was like, holy, whew. They got the best.
They do. And I never really, like, I'm coming from Houston. There's this great theater called Camera that works out of Worthing Theater. And they bring in like consistently like amazing jazz music. But in New York, it's like every single day I'm listening to the best of the best doing what they do. And I don't think any other city really offers that, where it's like every day, every night, so you can go see someone and be like, "Oh my gosh." Like the amount of people that were on my bucket list of seeing my first, my first couple months living here, I was able to check off half the list, which is crazy. Some people like in other states or cities or even other countries, like they don't have that opportunity. Sometimes there's like a bigger named artist that comes once a year, So I'm really privileged to be able to hear something like of that caliber almost every single night.
Yeah, that's why I call the city never sleeps.
Yeah, exactly.
24/7 of that.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Let me see. Are you a solo artist or do you have a band?
I mostly work in a band. That's how jazz music usually is best played, I believe. I've worked in many different settings. So I have my own band where it's just me and like piano, guitar, bass, drums, and sometimes a horn player. I've worked in a thing where I'm like in a big band, where I'm like the featured vocalist or something. I've worked in smaller groups where I act just as another horn player. I just happen to be a vocalist. I functioned as like, another vocalist in like a vocal choir. So there are different ways that the voice can be used. Um, so yeah, yeah, there are some solo gigs here and there where I play piano and sing, but I think I mostly like functioning in a group setting.
That's good. So when it comes to big artists, who was your influences that became like that made you you as a musician?
Um, well, my grandmother, my brothers, um, Nancy Wilson, Billie Holiday, Abby Lincoln, and someone that's still alive is Liz Wright. I don't think she gets talked about a lot, but I like to say that my music is like sad cowgirl jazz. And she kind of influenced me in a way where she brings folk music into the jazz realm, which I very much enjoy. Like, same with Abby Lincoln, like, you don't hear much like acoustic guitar in jazz music anymore. But I really like that sound. I would even like mandolin in my music. So just bridging that gap, she really influenced that. Billie Holiday, she introduced me to jazz music. For me, she has some of the best phrasing. You can hear you can hear her story in her tone. You can hear what she went through in her tone and the tunes that she sings. Nancy Wilson, I love the way that she presents herself. And also her phrasing is out of this world. I don't know if like you've ever listened to her, but if I have to learn a tune and there's a Nancy Wilson version, like that's my definitive version for it. The way that she improvises on the melody, she chooses to phrase a thing a certain way. Even the way she interacts with the audience, the way she looks at them, the way she walks across the stage, so many little things that I've just picked up from her. And then my brothers and my grandmother, my brothers obviously like I want to be like them. So like they are part of the reason why I'm an artist. And my grandmother, she just instilled in me the need to remain a storyteller. I've been thinking a lot about like this idea of legacy, and I want to serve her well. So I think that's how she's influenced me, serve what the values that she's instilled in me, which is like remembering where you come from, eat well, and like never forget like the little people. And they're not even little. It's like all your community is your community, and everyone in it is important. So yeah, those are, I guess, my brothers and my grandmother are life, and then the other four are musical.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got a lot of influences, especially like just have your family as part of influences. That helps you a lot.
Yeah.
So let's play one of your songs now. It will be your flute video. So would you like to say something about that?
Yeah. So this video came from a show that I recently did at Brown University with a good friend and drummer, Marcus Grant. He produced the whole thing. He arranged it. And it was a concert dedicated to the music of Nina Simone and Abby Lincoln. So of course I was so down. Like I love both of them. And so I believe this clip is from his arrangement of Freedom Day. Yeah, Freedom Day. And it comes from the Max Roach and Abby Lincoln album on the Freedom Now suite. And it's really fast. But it's essentially talking about when the enslaved persons were finally freed. And this is particularly important for me because I'm from Texas, in Houston, Texas, which we always celebrated Juneteenth. It's now a national holiday, but in Houston, it was like especially among the Black community, we were celebrating Juneteenth because Galveston, Texas is like an hour drive away, which is where they found out, it was the last place they found out they were free. So I was like, oh yeah, like I want to solo on this song because this is a very important song for me. And the concept behind it was like playing as free as possible within the context you're given musically. So I had these set of changes, these set of chord changes, but I also wanted to play some a solo that was acknowledging those chord changes, but also like venturing outside of them. So that's what I was trying to accomplish. Just like Black people had the time, they had to find their type of freedom within the context that they had, like the structures that they were put into. So that's the story behind this.
That's good. Well, we're going to play the video. Hope y'all enjoy the video. That was awesome. Great solo. Great phrasing, great everything, great flute solo. Wonders to me, it's probably a habit you did. But you're like, you were doing that between your solo. Is that
Yeah, that's been happening for such a long time. All of my teachers have tried to get rid of it, and I've tried to get rid of it. It just doesn't work. It's mostly when I'm not able to communicate what I wanted to, that last phrase, or it's that, or I'm just like really, really excited. So I just, say, and I try to not be so excessive about it. Sometimes it's really excessive and it's like a little bit distracting, but yeah, it's usually if I'm frustrated that I'm not able to communicate what I really want to communicate right now. Or it's like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Like, but I try my best to rein it in.
Well, it's fine. Yeah, I've seen musicians like even I do it. Like I'm like, I just when something's so good, like you make some kind of noise to like just let everybody know, wow, this is awesome. Yeah. So I definitely that's definitely like a kind of like a jazz thing. Like a lot of musicians, they have that like have that expression and stuff. So that's makes everybody them and stuff. So you have that, people have that, you have that. So that's what makes you you and everything. All right, so let's go let's go to the teaching experience section. So what's it like being a Berklee professor?
It's out of this world. I'm so very blessed. I get to work with students. So I work in the ensemble department. So I work exclusively like in small-ish, sometimes largish groups. And we get to learn alongside each other. Sometimes, like in my last ensemble this past semester, I had like a Chinese traditional instrument. So we were learning from them, like what this instrument sounds like how it works, the range of it, how it can function within a section. And then the people, it's called a pipa. The people player was learning how to play in a group that was playing more contemporary music. So at the end of the semester, they were playing jazz, they were playing Beach Boys, some pop, like this Chinese traditional instrument was playing that music. So for me, that was mind blowing. And the only place that can happen at is Berkeley. You know what I mean? You're not going to have like a Chinese traditional instrument in every single conservatory that you go to. So that's been a real joy. And I got to work with the founder of this, right? Lily. She was in my my small jazz group playing some clarinet, and she was doing so well. We learned so many tunes. I think like 7 songs, which is a lot for a group like that to really know 7 songs. They know the melody, they know how to solo over it, all of these things, how to communicate with the rhythm section. So it's really such a joy to work there, to see students in real time having breakthroughs and to really excel as a musician and as a human. And I'm also really lucky because they care. Like I've been teaching for a long time, and there are some students that just don't care. Like especially when I've had like my 3-year-old students who are there because their parents said, you have to take voice lessons, or you have to take piano lessons. They're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I want to be watching Coco Melon. And I'm just like, I want to watch Coco Melon too, but we're here. So it's nice to be in a space where everyone is there working towards the same goal of becoming a better artist. And I'm just there to facilitate the process, which is very nice. I never thought, like, I knew that I wanted to be a professor, but I never thought that would happen so early on in my career. So I'm very blessed to be getting the experience and to be working with musicians of such a high caliber every week.
That's great. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know how you do it. It's just
Me neither, but it is with help. Like my first day, it was crazy. I didn't have keys. I got there at 7:30 in the morning. I got my keys. I didn't know where any of my classes were. I was just like, okay, here we are. I just got thrown in, and I was like, okay, I'm in a classroom. I need to teach. Let's figure this out, Alexandria. So I like that. It was such a nice way of learning how to float. But then they have so many other faculty members around you that have been there for so long, that really help you to get better and to understand how the Berkeley system works. I'm really lucky that I was able to have a couple mentors there who helped me along the way to help me figure out, oh, okay, this is how I use this is how I use this program, this is how I get my students engaged in this activity. So they really did help. Like I could call them like anytime, be like, oh yeah, like how did you teach this concept? What did you do here? And also being able to sit in on their classes whenever I had free time really helped me to grow as an educator and to see how they work within the classroom.
that's awesome. Yeah. Being an ensemble teacher is pretty, John Roberts.
Yeah, the drummer.
John. Yeah, I think I had him twice. I'm gonna have him he's gonna be my prime instructor this semester. I'm going to my 5th semester in Berkeley. So
oh nice, congrats.
yeah, I'm in my undergrad and stuff. So going straight from high school to Berkeley is just
Yeah, it's intense.
huge jump and stuff. So yeah, that's awesome. Do you give any private music lessons?
Yeah, I had slowed down on my private lesson teaching ever since going to grad school. But I just signed a contract, which is cool, with a Berkeley alum who has a music lesson company called Voyager Music. So I'm going to be teaching with them this coming fall. And that's private lessons. I think they have piano. I'm teaching piano, voice, flute, and ukulele, which would be fun. But I'm teaching privately there. And then all my people from home, they still reach out to me. Oh, Alexandria, can you get me ready for this audition? Or, oh, Alexandria, I don't know really how to use this part of my voice. Can you help me out there? So there are like things in between too, but it's not as like consistent, not like a consistent studio yet. That's something that I would love to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just working with students and everything. Let's go to your vocal video. Also, everybody out there, you can go to, I literally did this. It's at Alexandria DeWalt, and you go to the professor page in Berkeley. Scroll down, has that video right there.
Exactly.
So might as well do that. So let's talk about that.
So I actually recorded that at Berkeley with this bass player called Nikos Hatzichakos. And he's from Greece. He's so cool. He's like my best friend. But he is also an amazing arranger. So he has this tiny big band where he does like arrangements of different standards. So this was his arrangement of I Didn't Know What Time It Was, which is a American songbook, Great American Songbook tune. And he really challenged me with this one because the phrasing is different because of the way the rhythm is played, or like the rhythm happening underneath the melody. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, how do I do this? And he's like, oh yeah, just figure it out. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it was a really fun time recording that. Some of those people, I think everyone in there is like Berkeley or Berkeley alum. And it was just a joy to record it. And it's big. Now we've done like a few more gigs with a tiny big band. And I've gone to sing this song a bit more. And so I understand it a little bit more and like how to phrase over it. But it's been such a joy to like work with his big band. He has a album coming out on February 9th, I believe. He has an album out right now, but he's doing a second album with some of his newer arrangements on there. And it's going to be great. We just finished recording that last month.
That's good. Yeah, no, I thought you just listened to her playing the flute and being awesome at that and being awesome at vocals. So let's watch the video. Hope you all enjoy.
Didn't know what time it was, then I met you. Oh, what a lovely time it was, how sublime it was too. I didn't know what day it was, you held my hand. Warm like the month of May it was, and I'll say it was grand, grand to be alive, to be young, to be mad, to be yours alone. Grand to see your face, feel your touch, hear your voice say I'm all your own. I didn't know what year it was, life was no prize.
All right, we are back. Yeah, well, I just noticed this, like when I was watching close to the end, it went to like from 16th to triplets, like just that one little speck, like
Yeah.
da, 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 and then it goes to
Yeah.
16ths towards the end, and then it cut off and everything. But yeah, awesome performance. I saw the drummer just like whoop, just went from brushes to sticks. And I heard he just went back to the brushes. So it's just, yeah, just with recording, you got to be ready.
Yeah.
Got to go quick and everything like that. Also, you sound a lot like Billie Holiday. Like I can hear in your voice you have that Billie Holiday in you and stuff.
I get that a lot. Yeah, her and Nancy, like they really, whenever I'm singing like a standard, I probably am sounding like one of them. They're the greatest for me.
Yeah, they're awesome. All right, so where have you bring your music this past year?
That's a good question. I guess like the three places I've lived, which is like Houston, Boston, and New York. I'm working on like getting a little tour ready, but first I have to record. Everything's recorded. I just have to, actually get it to mixed and mastered and all those things. But once that's happening, I would like to tour. But I actually have a gig in New York next Sunday at this Harlem. They call it like a Harlem Speakeasy. It's room 623, which will be fun. It'll be me plus guitar, bass, and drums. I will play some standards, some originals of mine, originals of others, the like covers of some jazz tunes. Right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it out. I feel like we're all just here trying to figure out where we fit in, what our niche is within the whole music industry, because it's huge and there is a space for everybody, but it's like finding that space and really carving it out for yourself.
That sounds like great news. Yeah, just going on tour. That seems wonderful and stuff. Any places you go into for touring?
I would have to like figure that out, but there's like, I guess like I would be my dream like place to have a concert or give a show would be in Houston at DeCamera in the Wortham Theater, just because it would be a full circle moment. Like I've seen so many artists there that I look up to and have inspired me when I was that age. And so to be able to go back there would be amazing. And also it's just like a great concert space.
That seems wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your biggest lesson from 2023 so far?
My biggest lesson. It's a good question. I think to slow down. I think a lot of the time, at least for me, when I can't get something quickly or it's taking me, or just like a lot of stuff is happening all at once, I tend to like muscle through it instead of being like, Alexandria, stop, breathe. Like you can slow down, like things, just because things aren't moving at the pace that you wanted to, and maybe at the pace that others wanted to. It's not about your timing or their timing. It's divine timing. So I think really just actually stopping and taking, like assessing the situation and being like, okay, can I do this tomorrow? Do I have to even do this? Does the product that I have right now, is that okay? Like, or is like this a perfectionist thing? Like, so just like taking your time to just be like, okay, slow down, assess the situation. And then if you need to go back to it, but take a break before going back.
That's great. Just, I definitely agree with that. Just, yeah, got to ease it out. Got to take your breaks, and like you can't really rush and stuff. It's going to turn out to be the worst. Got to just take it easy and just go one step at a time.
Exactly.
Love that advice. So anyone you can If you could perform with anyone, living or not, who would you perform with and why?
Kendrick Scott. That's so easy. I'm like, okay, so there are two. I'm a drummer. Like, I'm very picky with drummers. Like, that is like, if you ask anyone, like, I would love to play with Kendrick Scott and Brian Blade. Those are my top two drummers, or musicians in general, that I would ever want to play with. They're not only like some of the most tasteful and musical drummers, but they're some of the best composers and humans. They're so sweet and humble, and all they are about serving the music. And I want to surround myself with that type of energy. So those two men, like, if I ever play with them, I would die happy. Like, they're some of, like, especially Kendrick's music is some of the most influential on me right now, in terms of composition. And then Brian Blade, just his musicianship, the way that he has been undeniably himself throughout his career. I think, and he always does it with a smile. And he also screams. He goes like, he does the little ahs. I will never forget seeing that in high school and being like, oh yeah, Brian Blade is doing the ahs. I can do the ahs. Me comparing myself to Brian Blade, crazy, because he's literally otherworldly. But I was like, oh yeah, if he can do it, like, it's fine if I do it. So yeah, Brian Blade and Christian Scott. And Kendrick Scott, not Christian Scott, Kendrick Scott.
Yeah, I'm writing those down. I'm a drummer too, so I'm gonna definitely check those drummers out.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
That's awesome. How can we listeners find your music at?
So I don't have anything released under my name yet, but if you type Alexandria DeWalt in Google, you can find different music that I've done, or in YouTube, on YouTube. Spotify, I have stuff out with like different other artists too, including Nico, Suwon Yim, Raul Molina, like this guy named Bobby Earth. He's like so great. Done some flute stuff with him. So yeah, just look up my name on Spotify or Apple Music, and hopefully those people pop up. But yeah, I'm working on releasing my own stuff. It's definitely a process.
Yeah, I've looked you up on Google. I think Google's like the best because you're everywhere on Google. So
I'm trying.
If you're everywhere on Google, you made it. you're the top. Is there any parting words you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I guess, like, since artists will probably be listening to this, don't be discouraged. Everybody has their own journey. Everyone takes their own time, and there's space for everyone. Although it seems like someone is doing exactly what you want to be doing and probably the same age and whatever, maybe even looks like you as your twin. There is space for you, and to, not give up. Your time will be there.
Love it. Love the interview. Love your round of applause to Alexandria DeWalt, the famous, the flutist, the vocalist, the composer, does everything, piano, saxophone, phone, everything. So yeah, thank you so much for being part of the show today for Lily Theater Company. Very inspiring person to talk to and stuff, and incredible musician. Check her out on Spotify, YouTube, Google is the main thing. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, stuff. So you're doing great things. Hope you keep up with your musicianship. Hopefully I'll see you hopefully in Boston and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to see you performing and doing what you do and everything. So
Thank you so
everyone, all the viewers, go check out www.lilytheatercompany.org to schedule a lesson with us. And is there any words you want to say?
That's it. Just thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So We'll see y'all next time. Thank you so much.